Hello folks, this is Nitya. I'm in Delhi. I welcome you to my channel called Men Who Cook, and it is meant just for men who cook like me. So, the first step in Indian cooking is to get the all-important spice right. Now, you have all heard of a thing called the garam masala, hot spice literally. It's available in shops in various packages made by many companies. All of them are kind of similar and they have a few common ingredients. So those ingredients usually are cardamom, cinnamon, maybe a bit of cloves, a lot of cumin seed, and a lot of coriander seed. Sometimes they add chilies, but chilies are not really needed. The more exotic spices such as nutmeg or anise, star anise, are seldom added. Sometimes they add bay leaves. I'm going to look at the fundamental building block of Indian cooking, the garam masala, in this video, just to get us started on the channel. I never buy mine from the market, even though a lot of people swear by it, simply because I like to make mine fresh, and by varying each ingredient slightly, I can get very different tastes from different batches of garam masala. So in my garam masala, I have two sets of ingredients. There is the nice to have and then there is the must have. In the must have category, you have cinnamon, cloves, cardamom, bay leaves and nutmeg, 5 spices. In the nice to have category, you can have coriander seeds, cumin seeds and star anise, 3 of them. You can vary these in combination. I usually use the same amount of each spice by weight when I'm grinding and mixing these together, and that's because it gives a kind of a uniform flavor. But if you want, you can add more cardamom, you can add more cinnamon, you can add more cloves, and you get a slightly different taste each time you try and make garam masala. Now the other thing to remember is make a small amount, only as much as you anticipate using in about 4 or 6 months. And that's because the ground spices lose their potency much faster than the whole spices. Now, just as a rule of thumb, take about 25 grams of each type of spice and make little piles out of it, and we'll just take a look at how that's done. And then you grind them to a certain consistency. Here you have the 5 compulsory components: cloves, cinnamon, cardamom, nutmeg and bay leaves. I have weighed roughly about 20 grams of each of them. Nutmeg is about half that amount because it has an extremely strong aroma and it usually overpowers the others. So this 20 grams of cardamom, cinnamon, cloves and bay leaves. Nutmeg is about 15 grams. Behind these you can see the optional ingredients. This is star anise, this is coriander seed, and that's cumin seed. We grind them in just a regular coffee grinder, and that's what it is. So what I've done is I've put the cardamom into the dry grinder, and I'm going to close it up and put it over here and give it 5 spurts, just so. Wow. and one more for luck. Right. We can now see that we have roughly the consistency that we need, and that's what it should look like. Not a fine powder, but also reasonably ground so that it mixes with the rest of the spices. Now I'm going to do this for each of them and show you what it looks like after we've done the grinding. And now it's the turn of cloves. So as you can see, the cloves are all ready, and this is, like I said, 20-gram measurements, 30-gram measurements, sorry, of each of them. So that makes about 100 grams of garam masala, which I use in roughly about 4 or 6 months. So the cloves are also done, and I took just 4 rounds, and that's clove powder. The cinnamon sticks, these ones, and breaking them up a little bit just so that they fit in and that they grind a little faster. You can, if you're very adventurous, maybe just put them in the blender without breaking them, but just out of consideration to the machine, the man breaks the cinnamon for it. And one more. Right, let's see what we've got. Voila, we have fine ground cinnamon powder. That's the cardamom powder. There you have the bay leaf powder. This is cinnamon powder, and then you can see the consistency is so different. Cloves, and that is nutmeg. So we have the 5 compulsory ingredients for the garam masala. Now the next step is to blend them together, and that's done by hand, and I'm going to use a good old kitchen sieve to do it. So the kitchen sieve, just a regular sieve, just make sure it's dry, and I'm not using these 5 optional spices that I told you about. So now what I'm going to do is to just take this stuff and put it into the sieve, which also helps to mix the things, and strain out any of the big parts which have not ground. You've seen the 5 basic spices and the 3 or 4 add-on spices that you can have. If you want, you can add and subtract any number of dry spices. I would avoid things like oregano and rosemary and basil and things like that, and those kind of spices, because they come from a very different family of ingredients. These ingredients kind of blend together and they reinforce each other when you put them into food. Now when you're using it, just be sure to use much less than you would of the whole spices, because you've powdered and you've kind of concentrated them. So 1 teaspoonful of powdered cinnamon is not equivalent to 1 teaspoon of solid cinnamon. It's much more potent. So just be careful when you're actually using this. As a kind of a rule of thumb, for a kilo of meat, chicken, fish or whatever, I use approximately 1.5 teaspoons, level teaspoons of dry spice of this kind of garam masala. And if I'm adding anything else, coriander or cumin or anything else on top of it, then that's extra. I do like to add coriander powder simply because it boosts the entire thing. It's like, sort of like a rising tide that raises the entire ship of the spices and gives a beautiful aroma without actually killing those spices. So here we are. Please do like the video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be back with more tips and tricks for cooking as well as real life menus. Thank you for watching.